There's a lot of moving parts in a court case this size with so many people involved and a huge public interest as well. So for the next few minutes, we're going to unpack a number of issues. One of those is the psychological aspect, particularly when it comes to Magudumana, Nandipha Magudumana. The other is the legal side of this. How does this case get taken forward? What does a pre-trial conference actually mean? And then from the forensic side, how well have the police done in all of this? So let's just bring into the conversation well-known psychologist and psychological expert, Dr. Saths Cooper, joining us on the show. He's here in studio with us, very kind with his time this afternoon, as is legal expert Mpumelelo, Zikalala, and specialist investigator Mike Bolhuis. I've spoken to all of them in the past few weeks, both of them joining us from Durban via Zoom. I'd like to start with the good Prof. Prof. Cooper, good afternoon. Thanks for coming in this afternoon. It must be difficult to watch a case like this with your expertise, with your mindset, Prof, and not have an opinion, especially around Nandipha Magudumana. Appearing in court the first time a couple of months ago, her and Thabo Bester seemingly looking very lovey-lovey. Then there was the charge of kidnapping, and now this last week, not appearing in court as well. Is there more to that from a psychological side, or are we all just reading into it on social media?
Well, I think that nothing is as it appears to be. The facts, I think, will be raised by the prosecution, and I think they're going to be quite indisputable. I think that the conduct of the accused, who were fugitives from justice, leaves a lot to everyone's imagination. I think that she is very self-serving. She is highly manipulative. She has particular sociopathic tendencies.
What makes you say that?
Her behavior. You know, nobody who claims to be a mother would show that kind of behavior. She appears on social media before her being noticed, and then they're fleeing the country in a very cozy relationship with Thabo Bester, a fugitive from justice. And all of this leads to the histrionics we've seen in court. And I think that we're going to see more of it. It's been filled with that kind of attempting to appeal to certain sentiments. And I've raised this before. If she weren't as attractive and she wasn't previously a medical doctor, would we be bothered about her? You know, that is a very significant factor, particularly with men who you know, look at her and feel this cannot be the kind of person that the state
optics don't look right. This can't be a criminal, should it?
Absolutely.
Right.
So there's a lot, I think, going on, and much of it has not been unfurled in the public domain, and I hope the prosecution does have investigation into some of their previous relationships and other information that seems to be in social media and other spaces.
I'm going to come back to you, as I want to talk more about the possible psychology of Nandipha Magudumana, but you raise, as you're hoping, the court are going to raise a few of these issues. Legal expert, it's Mpumelelo Zikalala with us via Zoom this afternoon, and is Mike Bolhuis, so we'll get to Mike in a moment. Mpumelelo, hello, and the Prof raising a good point that yes, there's the legal element of this. Where does the psychology fit into a legal argument? Hello, Mpumelelo, how big is that to your mind in this court case? Is it frivolous, or does it actually have quite a big part to play?
Good afternoon to you and to my fellow panelists and also to the viewers. It does. From the court wanting to understand the motive or what motivated this particular individual to act in this particular manner. Yes, on a technical basis, you can come with evidence which is going to be provided by the witnesses. Expert witnesses are also going to be called in. But the most important thing which makes us humans as the presiding officer is why did you act in this particular conduct? What is the benefit that you have derived from this particular act in which you've engaged in? From a legal perspective, what we are looking for is the intention which forms part of the core elements in proving the criminal activities the criminal conduct of an individual. So you want to know what has motivated you, what was your intention, and part of that would be to say, what benefit did you derive from this whole process? And let's look into that. If it can be proved, then it helps to strengthen on the proving that you are indeed the guilty individual. It's going beyond reasonable doubt that you are the one that has acted in this particular way and has broken the law.
And I suppose the problem is inside a court of law, within the constraints of the law, it might be quite difficult to talk about the psychological aspect of this and bring it into law. I'm going to circle back to you, Mpumelelo, and the good prof in a moment. I want to just talk about, if we could for a second, the investigation side of this. And it's always good to have Mike Bolhuis back with us. Hello, Mike. Last time you and I spoke, I think you were in Beijing or Singapore or one of those countries, and I'm sure you're following this very closely. How, if you were to score the way the police, the investigation, the process in handling the evidence on the night mic, how would you score this for the SAPS? Has this been a complete disaster, or is this what you expected?
I'm actually amazed and very happy. At the moment this case was brought to the police, it was handled, in my opinion, quite correctly. They immediately did everything that needed to be done. And I think they did this. They don't always do that. As a matter of fact, it doesn't always happen. But in this particular case, because it drew so much attention, and we have the media to thank for that, it was so exposed and so explained everywhere worldwide that the police and the government had no option as to take this extremely seriously and make an example or a template of this case. And I actually wish that they would do that with all cases, because all cases needs that attention from the police. But I'd just like to add something to the previous colleagues' statements. We must remember that criminals are clever. It's the clever people that commits crime. We see that in government. We see that in syndicates, gangsterism, mafiosos, everywhere. It's not the stupid people that commits crimes. So we must understand that these people that are all caught now, it would have been best if they just came forward and have been open and given their statements and fully cooperated. They're making it for themselves extremely difficult, and I hope they're watching. It would be better for her, him, and everybody involved to totally expose everything, because this thing is just going to become worse and worse for those who's going to play games or pull psychological tricks or whatever. They need to be forthcoming and honest. As a matter of fact, they should say, polygraph me. Here's my statement and polygraph me. I'm prepared to give my full cooperation. Otherwise, it will just become worse and worse for them.
I want to ask, before I come back to good Prof. Saths Cooper as well, Mike, when you say that you hoped and you'd wish that all cases were handled like this, obviously this is now in the media, this is in the public eye, it's unusual for us to see how the court conducts itself. I would contend, though, that we're now 9 years later, and this isn't really justice being played out. It's the proverbial, the cliched, if you will, justice denied or justice delayed is justice denied. It's 9 years later. This hasn't exactly gone according to plan. You would agree?
No, it's just the last leg, and that's why I say I must reiterate that when this became so public, when you guys and all the media was on it and exposing it and requiring that the police and the government takes this serious. It's this leg and the final leg that was done correctly. There was many arrests being done, and there were many investigations done, and everything has brought this now to where it is. But you are correct, it should not be, and unfortunately most, if not all cases, are dragging over a long period of time. And it's just not justice, as you have said, it is correctly so. And we have that problem. It's another subject of corruption in the authorities, corruption in the government, corruption in the judicial system. If you look at this case, for instance, the most important thing that should have come about was that the prison systems has been looked at carefully. You know, if you put people in prison, you want them to come out better people. But let me tell you, there are so many crimes being committed from inside prison to the outside, where they are still involved with criminals. I mean, the sextortion and the extortion syndicates inside of prison, still having cell phones, having laptops, having corrupt guards and prison wardens and policemen and business people outside involved with them, committing crimes from inside prison, and all the other things that goes about it that should be in prison to make the people better when they come out is still not in place. Yeah. So there's still only a concentration on Thabo Bester and how he's put our whole country and our judicial and our policing system under eyes that it's actually corrupt and not doing its justice.
Mike, stay with me as well. I want to circle back to Dr. Saths Cooper because both making very good points as well. The psychology of this as well, the theatre of this as well. And as Mike was saying, these are smart criminals. These are smart criminals, aren't stupid. Do you think that both Magudumana and Bester are very clever people and how they're playing up to, I would suggest, is the cameras? There are cameras there.
Yes, look, very clearly, Thabo Bester is a convicted rapist and a murderer. And he very smartly was able to evade the system. He escaped, and all that will come out in court. But he has access to a lot of money and is able to play the system to its last nth. And that requires a special devious mind. It requires somebody who's of high intelligence, and as is his partner in crime, alleged crime, yes, Nandipha. I think there's a lot of theatrics, there's a lot of Magudumania, if you like, all right, around this. And two attractive people beating the system. There's almost something in most of us which says, if you can stick it to the system.
The underdog.
Yeah. However, these are criminals, as is Thabo Bester very clearly, he's a criminal, has access to oodles of money, is able to hire the best lawyers that money can buy, presents himself uncommonly as a person who is just out from, just like you and I, presenting ourselves in court, whereas he's convicted. So how he's managed to get past that as well needs to be accounted for. And Mike has raised a very important point about the prison system. That system engenders the criminality. In fact, if you go in for petty crime, petty theft, which happens most often given our socioeconomic circumstances, you are going to a university that's going to train you on the next levels of crime, because rehabilitation, if it happens, where it happens, is a minority phenomenon. Our criminal justice system needs to be totally revamped. We don't need the private prison system like G4 that gets a huge amount of money from us on allowing this kind of thing to happen and being obdurate when the law enforcement agencies, when the courts wanted certain information, being totally adamant and violating our own laws. They themselves, the owners of G4, a British company, have stuck it to us as well. So
they've got a track record themselves over in the UK.
Absolutely.
I want to ask you this. Is there an element of arrogance coming through from Thabo Bester and Nandipha Magudumana arriving, not, if I'm looking at the optics of this, not exactly wearing prison uniform, matching outfits, at least matching colors, looking quite smart, looking quite relaxed in the dock? Is there an arrogance, or is it a real arrogance, or is that a facade from the both of them, do you think?
No, I think they have an arrogance, and that arrogance goes with being smart, evading law enforcement for so long in different ways, and presenting this kind of face to us, that these are people who I can associate with. They are accomplished people. After all, the one was a medical doctor, and so on. So there is a great degree of thought given to each appearance, and the histrionics associated with fainting. You know, that's another quest for eating into our hearts, getting sympathy from most people.
But I think an assault charge, apparently assaulted in prison, Nandipha Magudumana. Some are saying, Prof, I want to get your thoughts on this before I move to our legal expert, laying charges of apparent assault in prison while she's waiting for the trial to continue, but not laying charges of kidnapping against Thabo Bester.
Oh, there's so many things like that, you know. And it would be in her interest, as Mike is saying, to come clean. And if she was indeed under his clutch, explain that rather than try to... She's very evasive. She's very evasive, does things for self-serving purposes, and has managed to get attention from media, from social media in particular, where a lot of stuff on her trends. So she
thrives on that.
She thrives on it, because there are people out there who do think poor, rich, a young woman
being targeted.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, when her advocate says he couldn't see her, etc., let the EMTs deal with her. That's what they were doing. Obviously, when she apparently fainted from whatever she's suffering from.
Food poisoning.
Oh, well, I mean, and yet she probably gets meals sent to her, which, you know, an awaiting trial prisoner is entitled to under certain circumstances. But being a fugitive from justice, everything is going to be under close scrutiny.
As it should be, as well. And Mpumelelo, Zikalala, didn't mean to keep you hanging on. I just wanted to get a sense. And Mpumelelo, you're still with us. So there's a lot to talk about here. There's the prison system, which I don't think we're going to have time for today. But just on what Prof Cooper is saying at the moment as well, that's the psychological side of this. How does a court view everything that Mike and the good Prof have now laid out, what is so clear? It's so clear to all of us, it seems. I'm not a legal expert. How does a court view this? How do attorneys view this? How does our justice system view everything Mike and Prof Saths have just been saying?
I think we have to start where a particular forum is going to say, we are now ready to listen to the information and the evidence that you have. So whatever that is going to be discussed in court and the pleadings which are going to take place will take place after pre-trial proceedings have taken place, statements have been exchanged, consultations with legal reps has already been done and dusted. So it's important to then say, allow for a person to answer and confess in the appropriate forum at the right time, so that whatever confession in which they're going to come up with now is going to be useful at the end, especially from the side of the prosecution. So for me, I would only start to be worried about the manner in which they're going to answer in court when the trial is about to start and they're yet to plead, and yet the evidence is being provided as to what type of allegations are they actually facing against them. And then it causes us to then look at the three things which are going to be very important in this case. Firstly, law enforcement agencies. I fully agree with my fellow panelists. Law enforcement agencies need a bit of training to make sure that they're able to bring and collect adequate evidence so that it is not easy for them to deny whatever that they've done simply because of technicalities that have not been complied with. From the side of the prosecution, make sure that you're able to consult and prepare your case in a formidable manner so that when you present it to the presiding officers, there's no other option that is there other than the person saying that I agree with whatever allegations which are being faced against me. When it comes to the courts, make sure that you provide enough time so that you are able to ventilate all these matters. Simple things like starting an hour early instead of starting at 10 o'clock will do wonders in terms of time management and making sure that you're able to curtail these proceedings as quickly as possible. Waiting from April up until October for the trial to start, for me, it's a complete red flag, because it then means something within the system is not operating correctly. And if there is justice that needs to be handled at the end of the day, we are going to have a difficult problem doing that if we are going to wait for such a long time before everything else is then brought to the fore. But for the manner in which they are going to provide the evidence or provide their defenses, having a legal representation is a right which is entrenched in the Constitution. And even the Criminal Procedure Act then goes further to state that whenever a legal practitioner needs to consult whoever that they need to consult with, in this case your accused, which is your client, open that door for them, because it is an opportunity that has been opened. Now, we do not know what happened on the last court occasion, but it was quite disturbing to then hear that you are going to even go to the grill and hand over the indictment while the individual is in the grill, where under which provision does the presiding officer leave their seat and go down to the cells to hand over the indictment? All things are supposed to happen in an open court. And when things are happening within that open court, it is for the accused to understand and comprehend what is happening there, and not necessarily for legal practitioners or members of the public. So at the end of the day, the manner in which they've handled it, for me, it was quite disturbing. There are a number of ways in which it could have been handled differently. Postpone the matter, say that you are going to come back maybe in a week's time, we hand over the indictment to you in a proper manner, fully explain this, what is going to happen, and then by the time you come back in February, no rights would have been infringed. At the end of the day, regardless that there's no information or information available to us, seems convincing. The rights as per Section 35 still accrue to those individuals. They are innocent up until a court of law is going to say to them, you are.
Absolutely. And Mpumelelo, I was about to ask you to all give me a 30-second just summation of that, but I think you've done it very nicely in Mpumelelo. If you don't mind me asking you to hang on, but I'm going to say thank you for your time. Mike, let me come to you very quickly. 30 seconds, everything you've heard, everything you've explained as well, all makes a lot of sense. How much of that do you think is going to come through in February? 30 seconds, Mike, as I say goodbye to you.
I would like to just mention very quickly, most people, when they are caught, is going to be evasive. They're going to play the medical card. They're going to play drawing attention and emotions in and get everybody confused. They're going to play for time. They'd rather come in and out of court regularly than sit in jail. So they're going to play it out for as long as they can. And do not underestimate Thabo. He might in all this time be planning another escape. So I'm telling you, these are all criminals. They have one attention, and that is to play it out as long as possible and see if they can get out of it. But they are all guilty. They are all part of this crime, and they should and would be and will be properly prosecuted by February. In my opinion, the police has and is ready to proceed, and we support them and we wish them well.
Mike, thank you very much indeed. I'm going to say goodbye to all of you now. Prof, last 30 seconds is yours as well. Everything that you've heard here today, what's your expectation come February?
I wish that our law enforcement agency would get their act together, have facts that are indisputable, and show us that they can serve justice in this country, not in the piecemeal fashion we've had and not in the corrupted way that many cases have fallen because of inefficiency, deliberate and otherwise. I think that this is a showcase trial. It's made headlines not only here but elsewhere, and our entire legal and justice system depends on a case that is on top of its form.
Can't get it wrong at this point. As Mike says, he suggests that police have done everything they're supposed to. Can't drop the ball, can't drop the baton at the last corner in the Olympics. That's how you lose the gold medal. Sure. Prof, thank you very much for coming in, and thank you to everyone for joining us this afternoon. Professor Saths Cooper joining us, also legal expert in Mpumelelo, Zikalala, and specialist investigator Mike Bolhuis. My thanks to all three of the gentlemen. It's a Sunday afternoon. They've been very kind in joining me today.